Good evening, pond jumpers, and welcome to the Third Rock. This video is for educational purpose only. This is a very serious video. I don't want anybody to be offended or take offense about what I say or who is involved or anything. This is about education for to keep the youth or to keep anybody in general not to do what this man did in the California Youth Authority back in the early 90s. So I'm up there in Stockton. They shipped me hundreds of miles away. And out of 200 people, there's only five of us in there, locked in there. And then when it was time for them to ship me to where I was going to go, they picked me, and then they picked somebody from different other dorms. And then we get on a bus, and then we stop at other different little institutions on the way and start picking up other people. Well, before I left, when I was in Sacramento, I was in Cherokee dorm, and there were some norteños right there, and one of them, he was older. He was like in his 20s, maybe 21, but he looked like he was 25, and he's all sleeved down, completely sleeved down, and even his head he was bald headed, and he had tattoos on his head, and he was a pretty good size man, you know. I was only 15. And when we got on the bus, it was me and one other guy, and the guy was like 14. He was younger than me. And the whole bus was filled up with everybody other than me and this other guy. You know, there was white people, there was black people, there was a lot of Bloods, a lot of people from like Oakland and stuff, and I want to say Sacramento. I can't remember. It's been a very long time. But it was just the two of us, and we were sitting next to each other, and we were giving each other pointers. And it was my first time. It was my first time, you know, going upstate, and it was an experience for sure. But let me tell you guys, this is a very serious story. So when we're on the bus, that guy that was all tatted down, that was in my dorm, he got transferred when I was getting transferred. Turns out we're going to the same prison in Stockton. And then but on the way, he's telling all the other guys that are sitting in the bus around us, hey, are you good? Or he would say, are you feed man? That's the term that he was using. Are you feed man? Hey, Holmes, are you feed man? And they would say yes, or they would say no. And what that meant was that you weren't levied, like you didn't get dropped. You were still, you know, you were still good to whatever you were game banging. You were good with it, and so they can fuck with you. And well, there was this one guy. He told him no. You know, I got dropped. I got jumped. They told me I was no good. I was on the L. And he had an X and he had a 4 on his palm, on the palm of his hands. He had a big old X and a 4 on one on each hand. And I remember he looked really jacked up. He had like a lot of acne and stuff, and he was bald headed. And I want to say he was a white guy, but he was banging norteños, and he was all tatted down with that stuff. And the guy told him, well, trip out. And he was telling a group of people, and we're all chained down, so we couldn't attack each other. And were we chained down? Yeah, I think we were chained down. I can't remember. It's been so long. But he's telling everybody that got dropped to tell them, now that you're going to a new place, just tell them that you're good. That way we have more numbers and this and that. He was telling them from from a military point of view, like if he was like a colonel, like a general, you know, because I might be going over here. You're not gonna land with me. You gotta land over there, and we gotta. What he was doing, I seen his point of view, but at the same time, let me tell you what happened. The bad thing from that. So this is where I learned that it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And let me tell you, okay, let me tell you. So the dude's, all right, okay, hell yeah. So you're feed me now, homie. You tell him, Psycho, or whatever the dude's name was. I can't remember the guy's name. He was like 21. And, because you could be all the way to 25 in YA. And then so he's pumping him up. And he's giving me this smirk and shit. And I'm trying not to have eye contact with anybody because I'm just trying to get to point A, point B. You know, there ain't no sense of making waves. And they ain't being disrespectful to me. So I'm not gonna even giving them an opportunity. So, but I'm keeping eye on all the people's faces who are my enemies. And we go to this institution, we go to Preston, we pick up people, we drop off people. You know, it's an all day thing. We finally get to Stockton, and I think we drop him off somewhere else, and then we get to Stockton, and that guy that he had pumped up comes with me to the prison I'm going to, with like 10, 15 other motherfuckers, right? And he tells everybody that he's good. So, and I heard what the guy, what he said on the bus, that he was dropped, that he was no good, that he's not supposed to be even saying that he's from the north anymore. But that other guy on the bus pumped him up and told him this is what he needs to do. So when we get to this new place, it's called Larson, and there's 200 people in there. And I think at the time there was like five homies in there. And so I was like 6. And then like one other guy came with me. So there was like 7 of us. No. That youngster, we dropped that Car Holt or OH Close. I can't remember, but we dropped him off over there. But we picked up somebody from one of them other institutions and then brought him with me. And then, yeah, so there was like 7 of us. And then they ended up getting filtered out later on, like a couple weeks later. And then there was just me there at one time for like 30 days, just me out of 200 people. But anyhow, this is where 4 quarters is better than having 100 pennies, because you have too many can make you weak, and this guy was already weak. And there was other guys that were dropped that said, nah, they were good. They all had the same idea, but they already had fucked up in so many different ways, good and bad. Sometimes you just get thrown underneath the bus, you know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of haters out there. You gotta remember you're dealing with young people. So trip out on this shit. I don't want to say the dude's name. He's from up north. I want to say by Oakland or Vallejo or something like that. No, I want to say Richmond. He was from Richmond. And he was a real goofball. I want to say after about 2 months that went by, he ends up getting in trouble with all his buddies, because there's like 100 of them there, and it's real easy to fuck up in there. And then I get in a fight with this one guy. And I tell you guys a story about him before in the kitchen. Well, that guy ends up, if I remember right, that guy ends up coming up to me in the day room and tells me he wants to sell that white guy to me. I said, what the fuck, fool? What are you talking about, fool? Yeah, fool, I'm pimping this white guy out. I go, what do you mean? He goes, that one, he said the homie at first. He was my homie. He's your homie and you're pimping him out? And I had the Bulldogs with me, and they started laughing. They were like, wow. And then I remember Cho put his head down like, what the fuck? This fool's fucking crazy. And Cho had came from Preston, and I was like, nah, bro, we don't get down like that over here on this side, homeboy. You know what I'm saying? We don't roll like that. And they're like, oh yeah, man, I'm pimping that fool out for 2 handballs. Handball is like real big in YA. I was like, man, you guys are crazy, yo. And then the way the halls are, it's beds on one side and beds on the other side. It's a long hallway, and then there's a booth in the middle, and then it splits like a V. But then on the other side of the booth, it's like it's like this one long hallway, and then you snap your fingers like that. It's supposed to be dead quiet, you know what I'm saying? No point intended. But for the guard can hear it, he can hear the snap without you getting out of bed, and then you raise your hand up, and in the darkness he'll put his flashlight up if you need to get up and use the restroom. And anyhow, we all knew what was going on, that dude was getting beat up, and you know, they're making him do things that a man shouldn't be doing, or a teenager shouldn't be doing. And you know, he wanted to be a part of this group when he could have just, when he got there, he could have just said, nah, dude, I don't gangbang, woo woo, you know, and he could have went a whole different other route. You know what I'm saying? He could have. You always have an option, even when you think you don't. You always have an option. It's just where your mind's at and where your pride's at. And you know, unfortunately, a lot of people, 80% of the people are followers and not leaders. And we think we are because we're macho, but being macho doesn't make you a leader. And your friends are normally your worst enemies, you know. It's weird like that. So he's there snapping his fingers, and the guard's yelling at him, what do you want? What do you want? And he can't say nothing. He doesn't say anything. And finally, the guard got tired of him and told him to go ahead and go to the restroom. And I stay on the opposite hall, so I don't because I'm from a different gang. They keep us as far separated as possible. And so this is what they were telling me the next day. And actually, the lady counselor, Lupe, she told me, Sandoval, Miss Sandoval, I think her name was, if I can remember right. It's been about 40 years. She was telling us what happened, like the next day or 2 days later, because she was just tripping out. And that fool had a bunch of stuff in his mouth, you know what I mean? And them dudes, they wouldn't let him spit it out. They were gonna fuck him up. So he had to go to the restroom. And then when he went to the restroom, he wouldn't come out of the restroom. And so the guard finally fucking called backup and went to the restroom, and they found that he was bleeding from where he shouldn't be bleeding from. And mind you, he's only like about 16 years old. You know, still got his whole life ahead of him. And I was in the same same unit that he was, and I was outnumbered 199. Let's just say 195 against me, and ain't nothing like that ever happened to me. Player in the same state, the same prison, same institution, and I was on the opposite side of the battlefield, if you understand what I'm saying. And I'm not bragging or nothing. I'm just trying to tell you that it can happen to anybody right there, just in eye distance. Like, you can see those lights right there. But it ain't none of your business. There ain't nothing you could do. And you're probably passed out anyways over here in your bed. And, yeah, man, they came and they rolled them up, and the way that institution is, it's those Y shapes. So every Y shape, there's eight Y shaped dorms or compas is what they call them, and it has one room where you can lock a person in. So like one holding cell. So pretty much that whole prison, 200 times 8, 1,600 people. I think there's actually nine dorms called Nevada, but it's outside the institution. It's complicated. I don't want to say that part right now. It's a workers' dorm, and anyhow, they had him locked in a different unit in one of those rooms, and they threw an orange jumpsuit on him. And we always wear a white T-shirt and some jeans and some fake Chuck looking shoes called IP or something like that. PI, Prison Industries. I remember they always had a funny smell to them, the jeans, man. We never get to wash them. Fuck, man, they had like a funny feel to them. But anyhow, that's why you don't go to jail, you don't get locked up. But this fool had to wear a red jumpsuit the rest of the time that he was there, for a year or whatever the fuck time he was there. I never seen him there after that. I would see him at school sometimes, and he'd be there, the only person in a fucking orange jumpsuit, because they had to keep extra eyes on him because he lets people do stuff to him. Oh, and okay, I remember what Sandoval was telling us. I can't remember who else. I think it was probably Tigger or the Bulldogs. And she was like, yeah, that man, that boy was letting them guys do that to him. And the what do you call it? The psychiatrist asked him, well, why do you let these people do this to you? These kids do this to you? And he said that it was better than getting beat up. So, I mean, man, what do you say to something like that? How can that be better than getting beat up? You're getting beat up in a different way, but you're still getting beat up. You can get beat up mentally, physically. That's another form of physically and mental beat up at the same time. I just don't understand how being a follower, when you had an opportunity to just to leave that shit alone. You already had got jumped, and they already know you're no good. You should have just did no good and found a new path. Now you got this new path that they made you, that someone else made you, instead of you picking on your own accord, picking your own destiny, or at least walking down that path. This guy totally listened to a stranger he met on the bus for one time for a couple hours. Pumped him up like if he was his daddy. Then went to this institution. Thought he met three or four new buddies on the bus. They were brothers. Within 2 months, he was sucking their dick. You know what I mean? Excuse my language. That's what you call friends, man. That's what you call loyalty. Shit, you can keep that kind of crap to yourself. But yeah, man, that happened back in the mid-90s. Some cat from Richmond. No disrespect to Richmond. I bet that happens to people from all over. But I don't want to say the guy's name, you know what I mean? His last name. I don't remember his first name. And he's probably not even alive. It's been about 35, 40 years. But I tell you this story for educational purpose, for you not to want to go to prison. Why? There's nothing cool about it. This guy was glorifying it on the bus, and they ended up selling him for handballs and clowning him for the rest of his life. He's always going to be known as that. That guy gave it up for a couple of handballs because he didn't want to fight his own homeboys, his own brothers. And this ain't no knock to them neither. I mean, it's just part of the game. You know, that's why it's best to stay free and stay out of that nonsense and stay out of the streets. Do me a favor, try not to cast any stones on your walk on the third rock. Safety out, pond jumpers.